This is George Karlaftis, and you're listening to This Is Purdue.
Hi, I'm Kate Young, and you're listening to This Is Purdue, the official podcast for Purdue University. As a Purdue alum and Indiana native, I know firsthand about the family of students and professors who are in it together, persistently pursuing and relentlessly rethinking. Who are the next game changers, difference makers, ceiling breakers, innovators? Who are these boilermakers? Join me as we feature students, faculty, and alumni taking small steps toward their giant leaps and inspiring others to do the same.
Playing at West Lafayette and then, obviously committing to Purdue and going on and playing at Purdue was awesome. You have people, even nowadays, that care about me and support me for who I am, regardless of if I'm with the Kansas City Chiefs or anyone else. I feel genuinely supported by a lot of people, so that's been awesome.
Ball is on the ground. The ball is out. Karlaftis is there for Kansas City. The first signal is a Chief recovery.
Well, the ball's definitely out. And Karlaftis does come up with it. These coaches know how huge turnovers are, and this gets the Chiefs off to the start they were really looking for.
In this episode of This Is Purdue, we're talking to George Karlaftis, former Purdue football player, current defensive end for the Kansas City Chiefs, and two-time Super Bowl champion. That's right, in his 2 years of playing in the NFL, George is 2 for 2 in Super Bowl wins. Now, This Is Purdue has had a number of incredible professional football players on the podcast. Jim Everett was our first one. Our team just loved that interview. We've also talked to Mike Phipps, Aiken Adele, and Mark Herman. And more recently, we had Boilermaker quarterback greats Kyle Orton and Curtis Painter on the podcast. But George gracing us with his presence on the pod marked our first time chatting with a current NFL player. I spoke with George in late August as he was preparing for his third season as a Kansas City Chief. We discussed his goals for the season, what it's been like for him playing in the midst of the Chiefs' massive popularity coming off 2 back-to-back Super Bowl wins, and even his recent cameo in the upcoming Hallmark Channel movie Holiday Touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. I wonder what, or rather who, inspired this movie? Plus, George digs into the beginning of his football career. And for anyone who is unfamiliar, he had quite a unique start. See, George is from Athens, Greece, and grew up playing water polo. He navigated an international move to West Lafayette, Indiana, and didn't start playing football until he was in the 8th grade. This episode is jam-packed with stories of persistence, and we hope both our Boilermaker fans and Kansas City Chiefs fans will get to know George on a whole new level after this one. Here's my conversation with George. All right, George, we are so excited you're joining us on This Is Purdue. This is the official university podcast. You've had quite a career at Purdue and also in the NFL. You're actually our first current NFL player to join us. We've had some former NFL players, but
Awesome.
Thank you again for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Okay, so to kick it off, we'll go straight into your NFL career. So many football players play their whole careers and never get to play in a Super Bowl, let alone win one. You've started every game so far. You've won 2 Super Bowls so early on in your career. What have those experiences felt like for you? Is it just like a whirlwind still?
To me, it's been amazing, kind of came to terms with it. Now we're on to a new season and, trying to do something that nobody's ever done before. But it's been amazing, it's been a blessing and it's been a whole lot of fun. So I wouldn't trade this experience for anything.
Okay, so 2 years ago, you're preparing for your first Super Bowl. You're a rookie.
Yeah.
Did you feel a ton of pressure? Did you go in knowing you were prepared? How do you approach those massive games?
Going into your first Super Bowl, I know it sounds kind of crazy talking about first, second Super Bowl, that kind of stuff, but for your first Super Bowl, your first playoff game, your first game, at any level, really, your first experience of anything, you're pretty nervous for that. I was pretty nervous, but I know I had put the time and the work in, and I was also with guys that had done it and had that experience, so that gave me confidence. So we went in, we got the job done, and that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Absolutely. You just talked about, a lot of your teammates had that experience. Is there a particular player on the Kansas City Chiefs that really kind of mentored you and helped you grow as an athlete so far?
There's been a bunch of guys, and there's a great team culture and chemistry. that we've had. We have a core group of guys really that have been here since I've been here, and we've kind of been stuck together. You know, I can mention guys that I talk to on a daily basis, like Chris Jones, and a guy that's not with us anymore, but he was a huge part when I was younger in my career. Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap, those two guys were great. But also like a guy like, you know, now it's taking kind of the world by storm, but Travis Kelce, you know, those are just guys that are great role models, one, but also been phenomenal friends and teammates.
I do want to ask, because you started and became part of the Chiefs kind of at the height of this most recent popularity, coming off of the 2 Super Bowl wins, but also because of Travis Kelce a little bit, right?
Yeah.
What has that been like for you?
It's been awesome. You know, now it's like whenever the team starts becoming more and more successful, more and more people, you know, start to dislike them or hate them. You know, hate's kind of a strong word, but so it's been fun to be the villain almost, or to start to have that role. But it's been a lot of fun, you know, for this recent craze and all the success we've had. It's a lot of fun. There's been a lot of naysayers in the past couple of years, but you know, we like proving people wrong. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, and you've done it 2 years in a row. So
yeah.
Take us back to this past Super Bowl 58. Christian McCaffrey fumbled the ball. You jumped on it. How did you put yourself in that position? What did making that play feel like?
Well, actually, it was a bad play by me because there was some miscommunication at the line, and I was out of position, actually. But sometimes you're out of position, and that puts you in the perfect position. The ball was on the ground. I got on it first, and yeah, now I have the ball at my house. Sometimes my dog even plays with it. So,
oh my
yeah,
gosh.
You know, it's just sometimes you're at the right place at the right time.
Yes, for sure. Okay, so when the confetti is falling on the field after a Super Bowl win, tell us what that feeling is like.
It's amazing. You know, I remember the first time we won, there was no feeling like it. It was a win where a lot of the time your personal performance, you care about how you did and all this and that. It's like nobody really cares when you win, when you have that big of a team award, of a team victory and all that kind of stuff. So it was just awesome to win. It was amazing. Indescribable, really. And the second time you win, it's like I'm hungry for more almost immediately. It's funny and it's awesome to see how the mindset and the mentality shifts.
Do you have any behind the scenes stories? How does one celebrate a Super Bowl win?
There's a lot of stuff that goes on in those Super Bowl celebrations. Some that are maybe not to be shared in public.
Not podcast appropriate.
Yeah, not to be repeated. Keep it at that. But, you know, for me, this past Super Bowl, we went out a little bit and then just hung out with a great group of friends and some family. You know, had a rental house there. And we just spent the whole night just celebrating.
After winning that second Super Bowl, George became the 10th Boilermaker to win multiple Super Bowl titles. I asked him how it felt to know that he's part of such a legendary group of Purdue athletes that have left such a lasting impression on our university.
I didn't realize that, but that's pretty cool, I guess. You know, there's not a lot of guys that have done that, you know, aiming to get more, obviously, as the years go on. And it's just an incredible honor. When you win a Super Bowl, you're part of an elite group of people that have not done it. You know, there's been guys that have been playing for 15 or 20 years that have never won one. So to be a part of any group of guys that have won multiple, it's just a huge honor.
And speaking of Boilermakers with NFL careers, what is it like for George to play against other Purdue athletes like Aiden O'Connell?
It's awesome. Sometimes you play against guys like I played against Raheem. He was to Miami last year, and he's still with them now, obviously. But we didn't play with each other at Purdue. I mean, we know each other just because the whole Purdue connection. So that was kind of cool, but we didn't know each other basically anything other than that. But then playing against a guy like Aiden, who I've known since I'm 17 years old and is a great and dear friend of mine, it's awesome, you know. Not just him. I know I'll go against Payne this year and David and all those guys. So it's cool. It's kind of surreal, you know, especially with Aiden being a quarterback and me. My job, in part, being to get after the quarterback. It made it a lot of fun, and I got him down once, so that was awesome.
A little competitive, but also there's that friendship underneath, right?
Absolutely.
As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, George had a later start to his football career than most NFL athletes. He wasn't practicing with pads on in his front yard at 5 years old or even at 10 years old. Instead, George was playing goalkeeper in water polo and was a member of Greece's under-16 national team. George shares more about his personal family journey, from growing up in Greece to moving to West Lafayette after his dad's passing in 2014. I want to go back to the beginning of your football career. And for anyone who's unfamiliar listening to this, you had quite a unique start. Can you share a little bit about your journey growing up in Greece? You know, you played water polo.
Yeah.
You didn't start playing football until you moved to West Lafayette in 8th grade. So tell us a little bit of that story.
My parents met at Purdue, actually, at the co-rec, and they decided to raise. My mom's from West Lafayette. My dad was from Greece. So me and my 3 other siblings were raised in Athens, Greece, a little bit outside Athens, up until 2014. And then, we had some stuff that happened in the family, my dad passing and all that stuff. And all my mom's family, her support system and all of that was in Indiana and is in Indiana. So we just made a family decision to move to West Lafayette. That was a great one at that. Just seeing not just myself, but how great it's been for my siblings and my mom and all that kind of stuff too. It's been great. So moved to West Lafayette and then started playing football around the 8th grade. I was kind of worried or nervous to play at first, and then kind of had to realize the game because most people grow up with it. Most people know what a first down is, what a touchdown is, and that kind of stuff. I grew up playing water polo and soccer, track and field, and different kinds of sports. So football was new to me, and I've learned more and more as the years have gone on. Everybody's got to start somewhere, I guess.
What made you want to start playing football? What made you so passionate about it?
I guess all my friends were doing it, so it seemed cool. I saw my friends, and not to down any of them, but I was like, well, I'm bigger and I'm faster than them. I'm stronger than all of them. So I'm just going to give it a try. And they were all doing it. So I was like, it'll be fun. I think I could make something out of myself. I always knew I was going to be an athlete to a certain extent. So I decided to try it. And I guess, the rest is history for the most part. Obviously, there's trials and tribulations through everything, but.
Well, and your parents were both big athletes too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. My dad was track and field and football at the University of Miami. And then my mom was a stud in high school. She could have gone and done basketball at Brown, but she had an injury, so she didn't end up doing that. But I guess I wouldn't be here without that. So
yeah. You said your mom's from West Lafayette. Your parents met at Purdue. Were you a big Purdue fan when you were growing up in Greece? Was that on your radar?
No, that was not a thing, really.
Okay.
I had like a Purdue basketball jersey and stuff like that. I went to Purdue games. It was one of the only universities I knew in America. And I went to games and basketball games mainly. And I know, all right, this is like where my family has all gone. This is who they support. It wasn't like I was following Purdue games from Greece and that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's all I knew. And so I guess a little bit, but not like a passionate Purdue fan and that kind of stuff. Not growing up, at least when I was
not a super fan of
no, when
Greece.
I was very young. No.
So after playing at West Lafayette High School, you decided to stay in town, play for Purdue. What was the determining factor for that?
I think a few things for me in my situation. And everybody's situation is different as an athlete going to college and making that decision. The biggest thing, and a lot of people, my mom, my family, my grandpa especially, they were all like, you know what, like Coach Brown is like a real legit dude. And just the way he carried himself and spoke. And there was a certain level of trust, which doesn't often develop between a head coach and a recruit. That trust and that respect developed. He was a big part, if not the biggest and determining decision behind me choosing Purdue at the end of the day. But, something that I've talked to with guys now in the locker room, and guys go across the country, some guys stay closer to home and that kind of stuff. I got to see my siblings grow up a little bit, A lot of guys, they leave and they have younger siblings, like they get to see them maybe once or twice and then they have to call them all the time and that kind of stuff. I got to see my siblings as much as I possibly could. That was awesome to do, and obviously to be around my family and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and your little brother now plays for Purdue.
Yeah, I got a brother that plays for Purdue. My sister goes to Purdue, and my youngest brother, he's at West Lafayette High School. So
oh, awesome. And do you think your brother was like, oh, I want to follow in my big brother's footsteps, or did you play a role in that?
I don't necessarily think that was the case for him. Just like I said, everybody's situation is different. He always has leaned on me and like asked for my advice, but I was like, you don't have to go to Purdue just because I did and that kind of stuff. Like figure it out for yourself and look and see what's out there. At the end of the day, I think he made the right decision. And I think Purdue's been a great fit for him, but just everybody's path and everybody's situation is different. And you got to figure it out for yourself, or else you got in the back of your mind, oh, what if I had done this? Or what if I had done that? So just for Yanni being able to figure it out on his own and ultimately come to that decision without anyone pushing him to do that was awesome. And to see all the stuff he's done and he's going to do, it's been great.
What were some of the advantages of playing high school football and college football in the same town?
It was awesome. I talk about this a little bit. Playing in what in the grand scheme of things would be like small school ball or like 3A, for example, as opposed to like 6A. I think for me, for my development was huge because it's a little slower than playing against like I have friends of mine that played at modern day high school. It's like the biggest high school in the country, and they're basically going against college competition. I don't know if I would have been ready for that, but for me to be able to grow in, and the coaches at West Lafayette did a great job just being patient with me and teaching me the game and that kind of stuff. So that was great. But playing at West Lafayette and then, obviously committing to Purdue and going on and playing at Purdue was awesome. You have people, even nowadays, that care about me and support me for who I am, regardless of if I'm with the Kansas City Chiefs or anyone else. I feel genuinely supported by a lot of people, so that's been awesome.
When you were in high school and then even as you made your way to Purdue, was it always your goal to play in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, I think as soon as I really even learned what football was, I kind of arrogantly almost like, yeah, I think I'm going to go to the NFL. Obviously without really knowing what that would require and what that would entail. But that was really my goal. I started doing it and I almost became obsessed, and that's kind of where I'm at still. It's been amazing. And yeah, I mean, once I learned what it is and, once I really learned the game, I'm like, there's nothing like it.
The persistence paid off.
Yeah, absolutely. Always does.
George earned his degree in selling and sales management, part of Purdue's College of Health and Human Sciences, in 2021. But how did he balance student life and academics with athletics? George discusses his student experience as a boilermaker and the impact his Purdue education has made on his life.
I graduated high school and enrolled into Purdue early. So I would have been going into my second year academically into Purdue when COVID hit. I've always been a guy that loved doing stuff online and remotely. I like doing stuff on my own time. If I recorded lectures, I'm great with technology and being able to do stuff online, like still to this day. Like I don't really carry around notebooks and stuff like that. I just have my iPad. So having COVID, it was a struggle for a lot of people, and I can understand why. But for me, it kind of played into what I liked from a teaching standpoint. I took all my classes online and I kind of loaded up on credits, which was one of the reasons why I was able to graduate so early. It was awesome, because I had football, I had school, I had some time with my family. So it was a great balance.
How do you think that your experiences at Purdue on the field, in the classroom, how has that shaped who you are today?
At the end of the day, it's all about becoming a well-rounded individual in everything that you do, really. Coach Brown was always big about, he would talk about the 3 F's, which is faith, family, and football, which was always huge to me. And just being able to be a well-rounded individual, I think Purdue helped me with that. And now that I'm kind of, I guess, in the real world, that ultimately prepared me for that. And whatever success I've had, the stepping stone, if you will, of Purdue has really helped me with that.
So outside of football, talk about life as a Boilermaker. What were some of your favorite things to do on campus?
Well, my experience was a little different than most people's because I already knew my way around campus.
Sure.
High school. My experience, I guess, would be a lot different than most people. My cousin and I lived together, my best friend. That was really special. I spent a good amount of time with my family, actually. I'd probably, not that I'd gotten tired of a lot of the restaurants on campus because I'd got them so much in high school, but I'd venture out to Lafayette a lot. I'm a big foodie, so going to a lot of different restaurants and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, it was my whole, I guess, time at Purdue was really focused around how I could achieve my goal of graduating and getting to the NFL with not a lot of time for other activities. So different than a lot of people's, but I wouldn't have had it any other way.
Absolutely. You've talked about the coaching staff at Purdue, your teammates. Is there any particular moment or piece of advice that stuck with you into your NFL career that came from Purdue?
From a football perspective, I went through a lot of change. Obviously having the same head coach, but I had in 3 years of playing, I had 3 different position coaches and 3 different defensive coordinators, which can be a struggle for a lot of guys. I try to learn something from every single person that I was around. I guess that that change really helped me prepare for the NFL, where it's every week is different. Every week there's a different playbook, and just being able to be adaptive and to adapt to a bunch of different situations. I guess that kind of helped me out. And then my position coach in college, Coach Hagan, he was at Purdue for many, many years, and he's at Louisville now, but he's like, look, I have one rule. If you do that, that's just fine. And It's like, do what you're supposed to do when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to be done, and do it that way every time, and we'll have no problem. So I guess that's the one little piece of advice that I take with me every single day.
A little slogan. I love it.
Yeah.
And what advice would you give to Purdue student athletes between football, volleyball, basketball, who want to make it to a professional level?
I've always been a very goal-oriented person. Coach Reed here with the Chiefs and, having whatever experience I've had in the NFL, it's all about eliminating distractions. If you're truly serious about a goal, eliminate your distractions, become to a certain part obsessed, do everything you can to reach that goal. That's obviously not the reality for a lot of people, but if you want to reach the professional level, there's everybody in the world is trying to do that. I would just say become obsessed with your craft, work as hard as you possibly can. And this is almost counterintuitive, but always try to have fun and never take it too seriously. When you take stuff too seriously, you usually get in a little bit of trouble. So while you're working as hard as you possibly can, make sure you're still having fun and being lighthearted.
George shares some of his best memories from his time at Purdue.
I had a lot of great moments, obviously. We had two big wins my junior year, my last year. We beat Iowa, we beat Michigan State, and then we finished off the season. We beat IU.
Always good.
That was great. Obviously graduating, because that's something that nobody can take away from you. I'd say the combination of those two moments would be for me.
In the 2022 NFL Draft, George was drafted number 30 overall and was a first-round pick by the Chiefs. He reflects on that night, which ultimately kicked off his extremely successful NFL career. Okay, so take us through that 2022 NFL Draft night. What are you feeling? How did you feel when you got the official call?
It was a lot. I had a lot of people that are extremely important to me with me at the draft. It was a unique experience. You have an idea of what you think is going to happen, but at the end of the day, you never know because the decision's not up to you. And to kind of, now it's like, all right, I want to know where I'm going. So just being able to now know, all right, I'm going to Kansas City. I'm going to be with the Chiefs. And that was awesome. There's some nerves. There's some anxiety that goes into that for sure. But at the end of the day, it's all part of the process. Everybody has to go through it. At the end of the day, it makes for a great story, to get that call, to go to a first-class organization like where I'm at right now has been a blessing. I wouldn't trade this experience I have for the world. And, I'm doing it with some great people too.
Over the years, George has not only made the Purdue community proud, he's also made his Greek community incredibly proud. This past spring, George served as Grand Marshal in the Greek Independence Day Parade in New York City. I asked him what this element of his professional career means to him and his family. Plus, George shares what's next for him as he heads into his third season in the NFL.
A lot of people ask me where I'm from, and most people assume because I went to high school in Indiana. I'm from Indiana. I'm from West Lafayette. I'm not really from there. I mean, I went to high school there. I love West Lafayette, the people there and all that stuff. But I'm from Athens. I'm from Greece, so coming from a proud Greek family is very important to me. My roots, my family there, my heritage is extremely important to me. I'm proud to be Greek, and doing as much as I can to help out in any capacity I can has been extremely important to me.
Has your family in Greece been able to watch you at an NFL game yet? Okay, good.
They're able to watch the games that are earlier, like a 3:00 game, maybe. The night game is tough unless it's a Super Bowl, obviously, but they've been able to watch. They have these streaming services because the game's growing so much. So they have these streaming services in Europe and really all across the world to make it to make the game really accessible for everyone. They've enjoyed it, and I go and visit them a couple times a year, and it's been great.
Greece is on my bucket list. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's the best.
You said during your college career that one of your mottos is, I was watching this in a video earlier this morning too, but it's that prove them wrong motto.
Always, always.
Do you still think this rings true?
No matter what level, no matter who you are, people are always going to doubt you for some reason. I play with maybe arguably the greatest quarterback to ever live, or one of them at that, and people still seem to doubt what he can do. So I've seen it with all-time greats. And, it's really all about proving people wrong. When you have success at any capacity, that's when jealousy in other people starts to kick in. That's when people want to see you fail. That's when you have to prove them wrong. So for me, it's always going to be a motto, kind of something to intrinsically motivate me. So it's been great.
Your career has been super inspirational. It's unique. Do you think, looking back, that the 13-year-old George who moved to West Lafayette from Greece would be surprised? Or do you think he knew that you were destined for this career and these great things?
Well, I was 13. My family, my friends, my girlfriend that we've been together for all these years. All of them could probably attest to this. But when I was younger, maybe a little arrogant or maybe a little cocky to a certain extent, but I always knew I was going to do something, especially in sports. Now, tell me, I had the success I've had. I'd be a little surprised to see myself do the things I'm doing. But I was raised by parents and been around a family that at the end of the day works really hard. So that's, I think hard work always pays off.
Absolutely. What would you say your next giant leap is as you start your third NFL season?
I think for me, it's, we play in 2 weeks from today that we're talking now. I think it's starting the year off strong for us and for this team. And, striving to achieve something that no NFL team has accomplished ever, in winning 3 Super Bowls in a row. You got to start with winning the first game and taking it 1 week at a time. But having that goal in sight has always been important to us ever since we won 2. So I guess that'd be the next giant leap for me, and then kind of taking things from there.
Okay, I couldn't let George go without asking him about his cameo in that Hallmark Channel movie I mentioned earlier. He's already a 2-time Super Bowl champ, so is he going to add movie star to his resume now too? Super curious about your upcoming movie cameo in a Holiday Channel movie. How did you become a part of Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story?
It was started in Kansas City. The opportunity presented itself to me and a few other guys on the team. I was like, I couldn't pass it down. So it was a lot of fun to do something like that. I can't wait to see how it actually turns out. And it was awesome.
Holiday Touchdown, a Chiefs love story premieres on Saturday, November 30th at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Hallmark Channel, if anyone else is interested in tuning in as well. We also asked George a few rapid-fire questions, from his time at Purdue to his journey as a professional athlete to how he unwinds in the offseason. Favorite Purdue memory?
I'd say beating Iowa.
Favorite Purdue football tradition?
The bucket, the old oaken bucket where we beat Indiana. I'd say that.
Perfect. Love it. Favorite campus restaurant? We talked about this a little bit.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's really tough. Every time I go back to West Lafayette, I have to get dog and suds, so I'll say that.
Love it. What's the thing you miss most about West Lafayette?
My family.
What is your favorite place to visit?
In the world or in West Lafayette?
Oh, no.
In the world? There's a lot of places out there. I'd say Greece, not only because of my family, but it's awesome and I can truly relax there.
Favorite way to spend the off season?
Favorite way to spend the off season, a little bit of downtime, but also a little bit of training.
Something that would surprise people about being an NFL player.
The hours are extremely long. I'm there at least 12 hours a day at work. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Favorite memory with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Winning 2 Super Bowls. That's pretty easy.
Do you have a special place where you keep your Super Bowl rings?
I'm not going to reveal that. They're at my house somewhere. But yeah.
Touche. All right. That's fair. What are you looking forward to most in the 2024-2025 season?
Just seeing how every team is different. So just seeing this team's identity and how we attack the season and try to do something special.
We are so thankful George took the time to chat with us, especially as he was going into full-on football season mode. Best of luck to George and the Kansas City Chiefs this season. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. It was so nice to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
We have a few more behind-the-scenes videos with George that you can watch on our This Is Purdue YouTube page. For example, which quarterback does George think is the hardest to sack in the NFL right now? Just head over to youtube.com/@ThisIsPurdue and click that subscribe button from there so you never miss any of our content. And by the way, if you're interested in hearing more from our Purdue football greats, you can check out our episodes with Kyle Orton, Jim Everett, Curtis Painter, and more by searching for those names in our podcast feed. And as always, be sure to follow This Is Purdue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. This Is Purdue is hosted and written by me, Kate Young. Our podcast videography for this episode was led by Ted Schellenberger in collaboration with Thad Boone. Our social media marketing is led by Maria Welch. Our podcast distribution strategy is led by Teresa Walker and Carly Eastman. Our podcast design is led by Caitlin Freeville. Our podcast photography is led by John Underwood. Our podcast team project manager is Rain Gu. Our podcast YouTube promotions is managed by Kirsten Bowman. Additional writing and research assistance is led by Sophie Ritz. Our This is Purdue intern is Caroline Kime. And special thanks to the NFL and Purdue Athletics for sharing photos and video with us for this incredible episode. Thanks for listening to This is Purdue. For more information on this episode, visit our website at purdue.edu/podcast. There, you can head over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe and leave us a review. And as always, boiler up.